Hey, my name's Ali, and I'm the creator of the YouTube channel Ali Horan IRL. I'm both a road rider and an off-road rider, and I create video content as I go.
Welcome to the podcast, Ali. Thanks for joining me for this episode. How are you today?
I'm great. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. Now, I've sort of sworn to myself I'm not going to ask you about the weather where you are at the moment, because that's just like a crutch I always use at the start of these episodes. And I think it's maybe a peculiar thing for people from the UK or from Ireland where you are, or Antipodeans like myself. But I'm not going to ask you about the weather. But, if you want to slip in how the weather is where you are at some stage, I'm not going to object.
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
It's actually not too bad here. It is a really warm day in Dublin. I'm wearing a t-shirt, which is very unusual. It's covered in some fluff because I don't wear them very often. But it is a beautiful, warm, slightly overcast day. So I'm happy with that.
Okay. Okay. So that was all you, I didn't mention anything about the weather. Okay. Let's jump then to my first question because, small talk's not my thing.
Sweet.
I wanted to get you on the show because you're a relatively new rider and a new video content creator, or at least within the scope of motorcycling.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be really interesting to get your perspective on these two activities. Let's start with the motorcycling.
Yeah.
When and how did you get into motorcycling?
Well, I started riding last March, so that's when I got my first bike, but I'd always been surrounded by it because my dad was a biker, so he always had a bike. He always had one bike in the house, so it was always just part of my life. And I always thought he was just the coolest guy in the world, do you know what I mean? And he was, as a kid, he'd be coming home from work on the bike and you'd hear the engine rumbling down the road and dad was coming home. And you just thought it was so cool. You'd be out playing on the road with your friends and you'd know it was him. And he looked so cool. Like that bike was a Honda Magna, which is like a, kind of small cruiser style bike. It was just so cool. So I was surrounded by that all my life. And then when I was a little bit older, he got a BMW R1100, which is like a big tourer bike, not dissimilar to what you have. Right?
Yeah, not dissimilar.
Yeah.
I think mine, they say that mine is designed for the cigars and dressing gown set rather than the real
Gotcha.
adventure riders. Yeah.
Sure. Well, this was more of a tourer bike, do you know what I mean? But big, comfortable spaceship kind of thing. So once he got that one, I was like 13, 14. So he started bringing me on the back of that. I'd been on the back of the Magna a couple of times as well, but they're just for short little rides for the crack. So he started bringing me down. We had like a little holiday home in Wexford, which is like 2 counties down from Dublin. So it's like an hour. So he used to bring me down on that. And then I remember we did like a Cross Ireland charity run to Galway. And that was like led by the police and like followed by the police. And there was like 2,000 riders in that thing. And I remember that being one situation where I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. I was like 14 years old, surrounded by thousands of motorbikers. And we just like crossed all of Ireland. I think they had like prepared all the towns along the way that they would be like closed off where they needed to be and they'd be policed and we'd come through and everyone's waving. And I just thought it was one of the coolest things ever. I actually still have some footage from it, from the recording on the back of the bike. So yeah, I just always thought it was really cool. I remember in my early 20s trying to like get a bike, trying to make that happen, but it was just not the right time at all. Like it was not the right time. I wouldn't have had the money to do it. But I remember like asking Dad, will he come see a bike with me? And he was like, yeah, okay. And then saying it to Mum and she was like, no way. I mean, no chance. And she was dead right. I was in no place to have a motorbike in my early 20s. So that kind of disappeared and I just got, working for all of my 20s. And I had done martial arts for about 5 years. I'd always done something really physical, you know what I mean, trained in some way. And I stopped doing martial arts after about 5 years. And there's this kind of like big hole in my life, in that sense. I really wanted something and I thought, I'm just going to get a bike. Do you know what I mean? Like I had a job, like it was possible. So I got my theory test and it was just green lights from there. Like once I made that decision, it all just fell into place. It was the right time and it's still falling into place. Like, a year and 2 months later, it's just, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing now. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Do you have any regrets that it took you so long or that you delayed getting into it?
I don't think so. Like, I mean, I do wonder, like, what would it be like now if if I had gotten my bike in my early 20s. But like I said, I don't think that was the right time for me. Like I was really bold teenager, really, bold in my 20s. Like I don't think I would have been getting a bike for the right reasons. Probably would have been to like impress people or something that early people in their early 20s do. So no, I think it's definitely the right time for me now. And I feel like I'm like catching up on everything. Like I've done so much in that short space of time that I had a bike, and I know I'm going to keep doing it. And I know now I have the resources and the perspective that I can and want to make this happen, and I am. So I think if maybe that might have been diluted a bit if I did it earlier, so.
Okay, so you're not one of these annoying people who just talks about nothing but motorcycles because you came to this activity. These later in life fanatics who just dive full on in and they will not talk about anything else but.
Yeah, it's their whole personality. No, I do other stuff too and stuff. Like I do, this is the love of my life now, I have to say. But no, I do other stuff too.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Can you remember the feeling the first time you got on a bike? And what I'm actually interested in is, have you been trying to capture, convey, share that feeling in your video and film creation ever since?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, do you mean the first time I got on the back of Dad's or on my own?
I think on your own, because I think it's one thing to experience a bike on the to go on the back of a bike for the first time, but to actually be in control of a bike and realize you can make it go where you want it to go and not really quite understand how it is going round the corner when you don't really seem to be moving anything. It just goes round the corner. I mean, I think it's that feeling that I'm more interested in actually.
For sure. Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, when I first got on the bike, I was absolutely terrified. And do you know what I mean? Like, when I was doing my training, I found that really, really scary. Like anybody else, I'm sure nobody gets on a bike and feels super confident. Like, they're quite scary. They're very powerful. But I think when I started getting used to it, and like I met all the right people on the way. I feel like I had so much support really, really early on in riding bikes. You know what I mean? I just met the right people who were really willing to take me out and help me. So I remember going up the Wicklow Mountains on the bike with someone with me, so I wasn't feeling so scared, and just like, it was just one of the best feelings in the world. Also, I hadn't really gone up the Wicklow Mountain. I wouldn't really go up there in a car. Do you know what I mean? So I know I had been there like once in my life, but it was from this whole new perspective. And it's so beautiful up there. Like, they're really popular motorbiking roads up there. And that was just an incredible feeling. So yeah, I think the going through Spain and recording all of that footage, especially in like the Picos, where that was just so beautiful, like particularly the Picos, that was what made me decide that this had to be YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, I was doing Instagram, little 30-second reels, 60-second reels and TikToks and stuff like that, but I just could not convey, because you're also limited to like the 9:16 or the 1:1 ratio on those platforms. And I just couldn't convey what I wanted to using those. So yeah, for that reason, I moved to YouTube, because I was going to be able to use the full screen. I was going to be able to well, that's when I started to have to add in voice. But yeah, I think after that trip, I really wanted to just show what this felt like as much as I could, with my skills and with the footage that I was able to capture. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I think so. I mean, do you, when you're speaking to people who don't ride, like to friends, family, whatever, do you sense any frustration that they don't quite get what you're experiencing? And even if you've shown them or they've seen your videos, they're still not quite getting the essence of that? Because actually it's in some ways it's a question about, is this something that when we as filmmaking motorcyclists or motorcycling filmmakers, we can never achieve? To convey that? Is it something that we're always sort of reaching for, but we're maybe never going to be able to actually reach?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's only people who ride bikes who will really kind of understand, and from their perspective, they'll understand. But yeah, I feel maybe I don't even talk to friends and family about it who don't ride bikes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell them what the trip was like and stuff, but I don't think I'd ever try and explain how I felt. I think they know how I feel, because I've come home so delighted and happy, and like plans for the next one already, that kind of stuff. But I don't think it feels nearly like it's not like insulting. Like I never want to like put people out by trying to say like I'm having a much better time than you are. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember talking to a woman at an event recently. Like I'm an event producer, and part of it was a children's event. This one, like I don't usually do kids events, but this was a kids event within an event, and there was loads of balloons released, and the kids were just like running all over the room, like catching the balloons, throwing them, just like pure joy. And I was talking to one of their teachers, it was a school thing, and she was like, if adults could just find something that made them feel like these kids feel right now, that's all we need in life. And I was about to turn around to her and say, oh, I have that. Like, I'm going away next week. I stopped myself from saying it because I realized I'm actually really lucky to have that, and not everybody has that. You know what I mean? So I think it's probably the same thing. Like I don't want to try and tell my friends who don't ride bikes like how amazing it is and how they're missing out on everything. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not. You know, I'm sure they get their joy from something else. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think I love talking to other motorcyclists about it because I know they get it, and I know they don't think that I'm trying to make them feel like they're missing out on something because they're there too. You know,
it's funny that you say that, because I think about that, capturing that joy, recreating that joy quite a lot, and I also recognize that it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it really just everything's right. The road's empty, the sun's, it's golden hour or something.
Yeah.
The road surface is good. You're feeling hydrated or whatever.
Yeah.
So do you find that you have to work, or you try to work to recreate those conditions? Does that frustrate you when you're not able to recreate those conditions?
Yeah.
And yeah, what's sort of your strategy to try and maximize the percentage chance that those conditions will be recreated?
Well, I think I definitely, like a lot of people, favor not going into cities. You know what I mean? So I have no interest in going to a city. Like if I'm going in there, it's because I have to. But I'll always go to somewhere beautiful if I can. And I think I was lucky when I went to Spain that I was there in February, so it was naturally really quiet time of year. But also when I'm editing the videos, like I will do everything I can not to have a car that was passing in the video or anything like that. Like I'm really specific about the shots that I choose. Like maybe it doesn't create the exact reality of what was happening, but I don't think it's that aesthetically pleasing to have a car passing by in the shot, so I'll always try, like if there's something incredible in the background and there's a car passing by and I absolutely like have to prioritize that main shot in the background, but I will try to take the most aesthetic shots that I can, and I'm always trying to think, like if I was somebody watching this, like what parts do I want to see, like what would be the most pleasing thing for me to see, and what don't I want to see, what's just going to be extra noise that wasn't necessary. And so I tried to make something as beautiful as I can out of the footage that I have. But I think when I'm actually recording, it's really just a case of me clicking the thing on, on my chin, and just, hoping for the best and hoping that I didn't miss anything when it was off. I probably have to get better at that, but or get another camera.
Well, yeah, you can't have too many cameras.
Yeah.
You told us at the top that you're both an on-road and an off-road rider. I mean, even though you've been riding for just over a year, as you said, you've already jumped into some off-road riding, which is kind of interesting that you've pivoted already in that direction. Tell us about that. I mean, it's a relatively recent development. What's the attraction of off-road riding for you?
Yeah, well, I suppose like in the beginning, I can't even remember, was it before or after I like started the process of like getting my theory test and all that stuff. But in the beginning, like so many other people, I was watching stuff on YouTube, and Itchy Boots, like so many people, was one of the first ones I watched. And like I remember watching one thing, whatever was out, I think she was in South America at the time, so I just went back to the beginning and just watched everything and was like, holy shit, like this is amazing. Like, so got really into that, and I was like, this is a bit of me, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if you say that where you're from, but in Ireland we say like, that's a bit of me. Like that is, I love that. Like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Cool. So I was like, that's a bit of me. I love this, really interested in this, and started looking at more YouTube videos. And then I come across Road to Dakar. with Charlie Boorman.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of, I like had heard of Dakar somewhere in my subconscious, but wasn't on my radar. And then suddenly like this world of rally was on my radar. And I was like, really, I don't know, like lit something up in my soul. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I have to know more about this, and was just consuming as much of that as I could. I was so excited by it. I just think it's so cool, everything about it. I just thought it was so cool. And I'm really interested in, like, I'm a very physical person, do you know what I mean? And I was just like, I could do that. Do you know, I don't know about Dakar, maybe I could. But I was really like, I want to try this. Really, really interested in it. And then I noticed in Road to Dakar with Charlie Boorman that Patsy Quick was also in that series, and she had completed Dakar that year. I was really interested in about who she was, so I started looking into her and found out that she owned Desert Rose. And I was like, kind of just took note of that in my head, and now I know who she is. And then a short time afterwards, I was at a spa with my mum and my sister, and I sat down on one of the benches, and there was a magazine on it, and I just picked it up, and there's a woman on the front with a rally bike, and I was like, what is this? So I started reading it, and then it's all about Vanessa Rook, the girl on a bike, and she was talking about her background and the accident that she had, and her starting motorbiking, and she was getting ready for Africa Eco Race, which is the old Dakar route, with a new company. So I started following her, and then her support on for that was Desert Rose. So that was like two Desert Rose things that happened. So I reached out to them and contacted them, and they were doing a ladies' day. Like they do like a stage 1 course, which is like your basic introduction to off-road riding. They do stage 2, and then they'll do more tailored stuff. So it was the ladies' day, but that's a stage 1 course. So they were like, that's perfect for you. Like, you know, if you're interested in a bit of off-road. So I flew over to them and I did stage 1, and I just had the best time ever. I was like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. Like, that's what it felt like. You know what I mean? I was just like, this and nothing else, like forever. I love this so much. So when they were there, they do like holidays and that kind of thing. And they were talking about their trip to Portugal that they do every year. And I was like, just sign me up. I just gave them the deposit straight away with that one day of riding under my belt. And I just thought so that was in like July, and then Portugal was in March. So I was like, between that time, I'm just going to do as much off-road as I can, like on my V-Strom. Which is ridiculous. And I did as much as I could on the V-Strom. I definitely brought it places I shouldn't have brought it. Like, that bike has no business off-road at all. But that definitely gave me more confidence when I got to Spain onto a little dirt bike. I was like, well, if I could do what I did on the V-Strom, I could do, you know, it gave me confidence that maybe I shouldn't have had, you know. But yeah, so I think I don't know, like some parts of it feel like, you know, fated nearly, like I was guided towards it, I feel, in a way. Maybe dad passed away 7 years ago, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm definitely doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and it was a mixture of chance and reaching out and making connections. But I think the off-road I'm really interested in and want to pursue very much. Yeah.
So you mentioned the V-Strom. So that's in the garage, or that's parked outside currently.
Yeah.
Is that now the right bike for you, given your interest in the off-road, or do you just need to get another bike as well as the
I think
V-Strom?
I need a second bike. I think that's what's good. That's the ideal situation. I have many a time in the last, you know, year looked into, is there a bike that could do both? You know what I mean? So like extensively researched and asked and all of this stuff, and looked at CRFs or the CF Moto 450, and looked at the option of a Tenere, like, you know, all of that stuff. But I think if I even did get a CRF, like, or a CF Moto or something that can do both, like they're still not dirt bikes. So if I was going to go do the likes of Portugal with Desert Rose, I'd still be hiring one of their bikes. So what's the point in me, you know, selling the V-Strom to get a bike that's still not the right answer? And there isn't a right answer. The right answer is a second bike. I think that's the only thing. So I think the V-Strom as well, and I've looked into, and I could have sold it, and I could have gotten something a little bit more off-road oriented, but I'm so attached to that bike now as well. I'm reluctant to sell her. Like I love that bike for road riding. Absolutely not. That bike is perfect for me, and I love it, and it's really reliable, and I've never had an issue with it. I haven't had it a huge amount of time, but she's given me no issues. So I think the answer is to keep her, and maintain her really well and get a second bike. Yeah.
What kind of riding do you do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I think I've probably mentioned on the podcast before, I'm a real fair weather Sunday afternoon kind
Sure.
of motorcyclist, and that's sort of almost a superstitious commitment I made to myself when I stopped riding around the age of about 24, when I'd survived 5 years of early 20s, late teens riding without killing myself. And I thought, if I do this again, it's going to be as an activity, not as a means to get from A to B and stuff like that. But you're much younger, different time of life. What kind of riding do you typically do at the moment?
Yeah, like very much like touring. Like when on the V-Strom, it's very much going places so I can see the country and I can go to beautiful places and enjoy nice roads and stay in nice places. Like I'm reluctant to use the bike for commuting. I do if I have to, like if the car doesn't have petrol and I need to nip out. But I don't like bringing the bike. I don't like rushing. I don't like having to like filter in traffic. Like it's not what I got the bike for. Like I very much got the bike for going off and seeing the country. Do you know, like once I got it, I did the national rally in Ireland, which brings you around the whole country, and did the photo rally, the same things. And that's what I really enjoy. Like long distance, the longer the better, overnight, do a week. Like that's what I got it for. Yeah, to go exploring.
Having now experienced both off-road and on-road, what are the key differences? Like if you were explaining to someone who has had no experience of either of those activities, how would you sort of briefly describe to them the difference and the differences for you, you know, your experience between those two?
I think the first thing is the bikes. Like an off-road bike is going to be much smaller, much lighter, different setup. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel much more nimble and flickable. I feel a bit safe. Well, that's because I've brought the V-Strom off-road. Generally, people wouldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? But you'll feel much safer on a smaller bike off-road. Do you know? Because if you drop it, you're not potentially going to break your leg if it falls on you. You might, but much less likely. You know, and then on the road tends to be, you know, yourself, bigger, heavier, planted, more powerful, higher cc engine bikes. That, and then on the off-road, you're going to be able to bring the bike places that you can't generally bring a road bike unless you're very adept at off-road. So yeah, you can just see more places. Off-road riding is much more technical. You have to think so much more about clutch control, what gear you're in. Like again, I'm not hugely experienced in all of this, but it takes so much more mental energy, in my opinion, to ride off-road. You're going to be wearing different gear. You're going to be wearing much more breathable gear. Like I wore my road helmet when I was in Portugal, and now I understand why you need an off-road helmet, because they don't breathe as well and you're going to overheat. So it's much more physically demanding off-road. And in my opinion, it's so much more fun because I feel like I get so much more out of it. You know what I mean? Like every time I go off-road, I feel like I'm learning so much. That's why it feels so addictive, because it's so rewarding. It's so difficult. And it is, like, it's dangerous, you know, so you really have to be on the ball. Like, you really have to be turned on, and you really have to think about, like, upskilling and trying to do something better than last time and trying not to fall off and hurt yourself. And I would say road riding is much more relaxing. And, you know, some people listen to music off-road. I probably wouldn't, because I'm still very much learning, you know, but road riding is so relaxing, long sweeping roads, thinking about the corners, trying to get it better than the last one. I listen to tunes. You might be with friends and watching them off in the distance. For me, it's very much about the visual and the how it feels, you know. Going on an adventure. So yeah, one's very intense in my opinion, and one's very relaxing in my opinion, and they both have their own rewards that come with it.
Yeah, we hear a lot of people say that actually off-road riding benefits your on-road riding skills. Is that something that you
100%
would agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose you would be doing everything, you know, to the extreme on the off-road bike. Like, you would really have to lean it over into a corner, and it's one of those things where it's like you don't even get a chance to prepare, to think about what's going to happen next. You just have to do it in the moment, or else you might, you know, have an off, you know. So you might have to do something to the extreme, and then when you translate that to the road, it's not going to be such an extreme fast thing. You'll have more time to think about it, and you'll know what a motorbike can do in those more extreme situations. So you'll trust that you can do that to a lesser extent, on the road bike. So I really feel like off-road just builds your confidence so much more on the road, and it translates really well. Yeah, absolutely. I think I was able to I went over to Desert Rose and they were showing me how to full lock turns on the bike with one foot on the peg and one foot in the air, like counterbalancing. And you can do that on an off-road bike. And then when I came home and I brought my big bike into a car park and I was able to not do the exact same thing, but I was able to do full lock turns, that day. And I was not able to get anywhere near that a few days before when I was trying that. So I think, it absolutely informs your on-road riding, and the same with your off-road. They complement each other a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the off-road riding scene like in Ireland? Do you actually have places where you can legally ride off-road?
They do exist. But I think it's kind of gatekept, and for good reason. There's no shade about that. It's just a lot of the land is privately owned by Cuilcha and other companies. So generally, it's not like the UK where there's green lanes. Green lanes don't exist here. There'll be signs up saying no motorbikes, and people would be kind of annoyed at you for bringing your bike a lot of places, or they might call the police or the landowners. There could be gates. That kind of thing. So I know there are enduro clubs, there are motocross clubs, there's trials clubs, and I have reached out to them, over email, and I think it's kind of very much if you're in it as a kid, it's going to be easier for you, you'll kind of grow up with it, or if your parents did it, you can get your kids into it and that kind of thing. But to be honest, I just found it hard to even get information about. It's very much who you know, what places and will your friends bring you there. For me, that's the reality of it. I'd have to get my mates who have a few GPX files to bring me out, that kind of thing. There's no they do exist. There are motocross tracks and that kind of thing, but yeah, you have to be a member, of course, just like in the UK. But yeah, and then you'd obviously have to own your bike and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of issues with motorbike theft, especially around dirt bikes in Dublin and in Ireland. So I'd be reluctant to buy a bike, to be worrying about it getting stolen, to go off to these places that are hard to get to and to get into in the first place. So it does exist. I'm probably making it sound really shit. A lot of my friends are off-road riders, and they are happy. They're not, looking elsewhere or, going abroad to go off-road riding. They do, but not to the extent that it exists in the likes of the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I think we've covered the motorcycling topic quite adequately. I would like to talk about the filmmaking now.
Oh, cool.
Because I find it kind of intriguing that you've thrown yourself into the motorcycling, but you seem to have also thrown yourself into the filmmaking at the same time.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to start making the video content for this newly found passion for motorcycling?
I think what it is, well, of course, I watch people online, and I was so inspired and just think it's so cool that this is even a thing, because I didn't really know it was a thing until I started getting into it. And that was only a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I've always been a creative person. I've always made art. I don't consider myself an artist. I don't have a studio where I sit down and paint, but I've always made art. Always, my degree is in model making, prop making for film. I'm a maker, I'm a creative person, and I always have that yearning to make something, to create, produce something. It's just who I am, part of who I am. So yeah, I loved the idea of making little snippets, and that was just a creative outlet, that I was really interested in. So I got myself a little camera and just started recording. Yeah, in my head, I just wanted to record a beautiful little 30 seconds with, I could put this song over it, one of my favorite songs. And it felt like some form of self-expression to me that was really satisfying, just be a 30-second little clip, because I'd kind of fallen out of painting, so I was missing that creative outlet. So this was a new one for me. And then that just started snowballing, you know, for me to actually be able to tell the full story and to reflect. You know, I suppose in Ireland I was, you know, just going around Ireland. So it was okay for me to just make little clips and stuff. But when I did go, very much, I mean, I've only done Spain. That's my biggest trip. You know, well, I went to Morocco as well. But to reflect that properly, like it had to be, like I said, a YouTube video, and it had to have voice so I could tell the story, and pictures like to support, you know, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it was that need that I have to create just naturally that I've always had, and the excitement that I could do that and show people motorbiking.
Was it your first experience of editing, like creating film?
Yes. Yeah. Like once, like, so obviously I started with TikTok and Instagram, just making little 30 seconds. But yeah, once I got back from Spain and I started doing that first series, that was my first like proper making YouTube videos and adding in voice and editing. And yeah, I was very much like looking up tutorials at the same time and trying to figure it out. But I did have a few months of making TikToks and stuff. So I had a rough idea. But yeah.
And what surprised you the most about when you started making videos? You know, because obviously it's completely different to 3D model making, or working in 3D and painting. You're working with moving images. You're editing in a way that's just not a consideration when it comes to a painting or a sculpture. So, what surprised you the most about creating video when you first started doing it?
I think the biggest thing for me was just how long it takes, because I was like, and I think I say the word perfectionist, and I don't mean it in a good way. Like, it's definitely not helpful, you know? So I was like,
Yeah.
I thought, and I'd watch the likes of, say, Itchy Boots, and I know that she has like a 2-week lag so that people don't know exactly where in the world that she is. But I thought, like, go out, record some footage, come home and make a video, put it out, do it again. But it was taking me like at least a week. Like my first video, I think took me 2 weeks, that first 10-minute video, like to get it, to figure out like what should be in it, what's too long, like the whole thing. And I was like, how do you tell the story? Like, what am I actually trying to say? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I trying to show? What's the point of making this video? Like, so the whole thing, yeah, and it's still taking me a long time, you know, now, like it's still like a week to make a video, because I don't want to rush it, and I need time and space, you know what I mean, to do some of it and then come back. I don't want to rush. I don't want to do it rushed. Like, I'm not being paid to do this. This should be enjoyable, and I don't want to start making it a chore. So it needs to be enjoyable. That means I need time to do these things, you know? So yeah, the answer to that question is just how long it's taking me, and I really hope I get quicker.
Can you, if we think about the various stages, you know, if we break it down when you actually make a video, and I'm not going to list them here because I'll probably forget something, but
Sure.
what do you find is taking the most time in that whole overall process?
Well, I'm probably just not very efficient in general, because I'm still just learning how to do it. But I think, yeah, the longest thing is, so aside from even just like taking the footage off the memory cards and onto my computer so that I can work with the local files. Once you've done all of that transferring, which takes a little bit of time, putting all of those files into the video editing software, and then just go. So what I'm going to do is I pull it in and I go through like with a fine tooth comb, and I take out any of the fluff or stuff that I'm not going to show. So then I'm left with a bunch of little clips that I think will be nice from this particular one. And then I do that for the next one, and I go through all of them, and then I edit that down again as I'm going through. So I think that's probably the longest part for me. And then choosing what I'm actually trying to say. Now I can see the timeline of all of what I have an option to use. And then what am I actually trying to show? So now then I'll write down like chapter 1, intro, chapter 2 is this, chapter 3. And I will lay it out that way. And then I'll be like, actually, chapter 2 is irrelevant. Like, we didn't need that. I wouldn't be interested in that if I saw that. It didn't add to the story. So then, you know, there's just editing and editing and editing. And then once I have all of that and it kind of makes sense, then I'll add in voice, you know, because I need it to be cohesive. Because if I recorded voice too early and then take a section out, suddenly it doesn't make sense and I have to redo all the voice. So yeah, I'd say I could probably do with some training in how to be more efficient. But yeah, I think just choosing the clips and
Okay, I'm going to throw perhaps a controversial opinion out there, which is, well, it's very personal for my workflow, and even with making the podcast, I think I am quite efficient with that. But what I was going to say is I quite enjoy being inefficient when it comes to putting video together, because I kind of enjoy the fact that it's taking me so long.
Okay.
Like, I don't resent the fact that it takes so long.
Right.
I'm not frustrated with how long it takes. It's not something that I'm doing very often, but like you say, also, it's not something I'm getting paid to do. So it's something that I enjoy doing, and I'm not too bothered about how long it takes. But I also think the fact that it takes some time actually helps with the creative process. And can I, if possible, throw that back to your sculpture and your model making? Because obviously that's something that I imagine takes quite a bit of time as well.
Yeah.
And you can't rush it, but maybe as you're working through making a piece, it gives you a lot of time to think about it. Is that your experience?
For sure. Absolutely, when it comes to sculpture and physically creating art, because I think I've always done that, and I know that I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I just understand that if it's taking long, it's, you know, I can put it down and come back to it and all that kind of thing. But I think with the editing, I don't know what I don't know, so I'm not sure if I'm missing something, you know, completely obvious. So I'm like, I think I'm doing this right. Like, you know, I'd love to talk to more people who do this and like talk to them about my workflow, and like what you just told me, like made me feel a bit like better. I'm like, okay, like it's, you don't get this done in an hour either, you know? So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if someone just like was able to look over my shoulder and be like, no, what you're doing is grand, you know, it's a long process. That is what it is. Then I think I would probably feel better about it and be able to settle into it more. But I'm like, am I doing this right? Should it take this long? You know?
Yeah, maybe I'm going to rain on your parade a little bit now by saying that I have had some professional full-time film editors as guests on the podcast.
Sure.
And I'm always kind of interested. So I sort of say, well, how long did it take you? And they, oh yeah, I did that in a day. And it's like a 20-minute video or something.
I know.
I'm like, okay.
That's it. Like, you know, Eleanor, have you heard her on YouTube? Like LNR?
Yeah. I know from the Netherlands. I think she's just moved to Spain now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she put up a story the other week on Instagram, and I was like, what? So she 11 hours editing episodes 1 to 7 of her new series, and then like 8 to 11 yet to go. I was like, in a day? I was like, 7 episodes, and her episodes are 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're like, not short. Yeah,
I was like, what am I missing? Do you know? Obviously, she's doing it years and that kind of thing. And I know I will get better every time I go. But yeah, it's still taking me a while. And like when I have a job, you know, a normal life as well, I can only do it in my spare time.
Exactly, and let's not forget that is her job as well.
That is her job,
so,
exactly.
You know, there's a commercial imperative to be as efficient as possible and have an extremely efficient workflow.
Yes.
Whereas if you're anything like me, whenever I make a video and it's sort of once in a blue moon kind of thing, it's like I'm kind of, what's the way to do this again? How, you know, I'm sort of, I forget things, you know.
Yeah.
I've forgotten how to do things. I've got to remind myself how to do them again.
Yeah.
But we don't have that commercial imperative. We don't have that time pressure. And I also think that makes it more enjoyable, personally, for me.
Absolutely. Like it gives you more space. But I think like a lot of people, I work much better under pressure. Do you know, with a little bit of pressure, not too much pressure. Like I try to treat it like work, like if this is a brief I've been given from a client and I just simply had to produce it by this day. It just has to be done, not perfect. You know, done, not perfect is something I find really helpful. But I think the Spain series that I did, I set myself the goal of producing a video to come out every Friday. And that was really helpful because that did put pressure on me, and that perfectionism that I had didn't allow me to not do that, you know. So I did like have really long days just making sure I got that out every Friday.
Yeah.
You know, just because I knew that I had a set amount of footage, and I knew that I wanted to come out every Friday, and it was a limited thing. It was just it wasn't ongoing forever. So I was like, I can do this, you know. But now I think I have a few videos to make, and it just has to be when I have the time to do them, because I don't have a set. Well, I do. I have one as a hard deadline, but a few other of them, like, it's up to me when it comes out. But I would like it to be regular, like at least every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it is a good discipline. I mean, when I first started the podcast, I made a big song and dance and said, hey, look, I'm not going to promise what the release schedule is. I'll just get episodes out when I can. But since the beginning of this year, even maybe sometime last year, I sort of unofficially committed to trying to get an episode out every 2 weeks. And I think it is just a good discipline to
Yes, for sure.
follow.
Because then you stay on top of your skills, and you don't, like you said, like you don't forget stuff like when it's that regular. But even 3 weeks, I think you can forget. And I'm changing over to DaVinci Resolve because I think CapCut have some new terms and conditions. So I also have to learn that as I go, you know, which adds a bit of pressure. But I think there's a couple of brands that have reached out and asked me to review a couple of things, but this is good for me because they have a hard deadline. They ask for, could it be 2 weeks after you receive the product? So, you know, so that this is good. That's a kind of a bit of a push.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times that you've incorporated voiceover narration into your work. I think from if I look at your YouTube channel, the first couple of videos you posted there, I don't think there was any voiceover narration with those. It was just a musical soundtrack. But then when the Spain and Portugal miniseries started, voiceover narration was right there, right at the beginning. Voiceover narration is something that many filmmakers are often hesitant to introduce. How much thought did you give to it? Like, was it just a no-brainer, or how did you come to the decision that, okay, I'm going to include voiceover narration in my videos?
Voiceover was the block. That was the block why I didn't start YouTube sooner. You know, I was so nervous about it because it felt so vulnerable. Do you know, it felt so exposing. I really didn't want to, but I knew that I had to, if I wanted to express myself in the way that if I wanted to say what I had to say, I had to be through voiceover. And I tried every other direction in my head. What else could I do? Could I put, type, have copy on screen? Could I use like some kind of AI thing? The only answer was voiceover. So I remember getting my phone and just recording my voice. Like if I had a sentence, what would the first sentence be? And I just typed that out and I recorded it and I listened back and I was like, oh, that's not too bad. Like, that's okay. So I was like, it made me feel sick. I hated the thought of it. But once I started doing it, I felt cathartic. Like I felt like I had so much to say, and I was like, I don't know, I think I was a really shy child. So it felt like I was like releasing so much that I had wanted to say. It felt really like empowering. I know that sounds a bit cliche, but I felt so satisfying, and it really felt like it completed that creative process. I would have been leaving something really big out if I didn't do that. And I'm really proud that I did manage to overcome that, because it was a huge block.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's a skill as much as anything else. So I think it can be learned, but to be able to look at your own work, to listen to your own voice is really useful. I mean, I say it in podcasts all the time. Like, I work with a number of podcasters, and I'm so frustrated when people that I work with don't listen to their work. And I think it's important to listen to your work, and then as creators to get comfortable listening to your own voice. And so I think, as I say, I think it's a skill more than anything else, and I think you can work at it. But I think it's an important step. I mean, you don't do any recording of your voice while you're riding, do you?
No, simply because I don't own a microphone. The list is so big. Do you know what I mean? Even just like for the gear for the bike, like maintaining the bike, the cameras, all of that stuff. So I just have to prioritize. So it's on my list. I want to get a microphone for the bike. I just haven't got around to it yet, but it is definitely something. I want a second camera and a mic. That'd be great.
It is a creative decision though. I mean, because voiceover is different to sort of the more traditional vlogging style, which is, you know, talking as you go. And you obviously can be, not that I'm saying that you wouldn't be thoughtful as you're riding down the road, but I think you can be a lot more thoughtful and edited, especially in doing voiceover afterwards.
100%. And I think as well with the narration, when you come back to edit the video, you'll have a clearer story when you sit down of what actually happened that day. So you might be telling a slightly different story. Whereas if you're on the bike speaking as you go, well, you know, you're in it, you know, so it's two different perspectives, you know, good to have the option of both.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit like, or maybe it's not a bit like, but you know, a lot of people are pretty keen on 360 cameras because it gives them options.
Yes.
As well as other cameras. I had another thing I wanted to say about voiceover, but I've forgotten. So I might have to see. I'm allowed to make mistakes as well. Okay. In terms of the narration, because narration is something that's sort of I've come around to, and I've talked about this on the podcast quite a few times, that I was not that keen on it, but I'm really keen on it now because I think often I really hear people say thoughtful things, which is maybe time of life, and I haven't got time for unthoughtful thoughts anymore.
Sure.
But is there anyone out there who you tried to copy? And I don't think that's a shameful thing, because I think it's actually a good thing to copy people or to copy someone's vibe and then tweak it to you, because you'll inevitably make it yourself. And we're all influenced by different things, and you can't stop that influence. 100%. But is there anyone out there who you think, oh, I really like the way or what they've done, and therefore I'm going to sort of try and follow their sort of model?
I think in particular Runa from Off She Goes, and I love Brent Pearson's stuff as well. And I think what I love about them is and I'm referring to their voiceover narration, it just feels, with Runa for instance, she just feels really natural and like gentle and simply just telling the story as it is. And I don't think there's ever any need to, like, you know, big it up or make it this big epic adventure. It's just like what the weather was like that day, and, you know, made a coffee, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I just really appreciate that, and it makes it feel really accessible. And I think with Brent Pearson too, like he doesn't have a mic, he doesn't use that while he's riding, he does it at the end as well. And it's just simply what I'm trying to do is what they're doing, is just come back at the end of that experience and just tell the story of what happened. And it doesn't have to try and be something incredible, just because it being what it is, it makes it so, you know, that's the thing, it makes it so accessible. Anybody can do it, you know, and that's what I'm trying to convey, is that anybody can do it. And it's simply just going out on the bike and having a nice time is the goal. Yeah.
No, I would certainly echo those comments about Runa and Brent. I think they're at the top of their game of what they're doing in terms of production quality. And,
I agree.
And just, you get the feeling that you kind of know them.
Yeah, totally, exactly. Yeah. And I think Runa might be at ABR, and I'm like, oh God, I'd love to like say hi to her, but it's, for her, I'm a complete stranger. And for me, I followed all of your videos for the last couple of years, you know. It's really funny. Yeah, for sure. But they feel like real people.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that could be a whole podcast episode talking about parasocial relationships, but I won't put you through that now. What, if any, challenges have you encountered when combining motorcycling and filming?
Well, I suppose just the learning curve in learning how to create videos. I think the voiceover thing that we discussed, that was a big thing. And I think I had like, there's like the sense of imposter syndrome, do you know, like who am I to make videos? Like I literally not riding a wet minute, do you know, but I think everyone's experience is really relevant and interesting. And, you know, I think everyone will be inspired by each other. You know, so I think imposter syndrome was definitely a thing, and like putting myself up on social media, because before I would be very private on social media. Like I'm not the kind of person that would be putting up life updates, or, you know, I put up the odd story and that kind of thing, but I'm not the kind of person that overshares it all online. Like my personal life is my personal life, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, I think starting to put stuff online and starting to put myself out there in the motorbike world was quite intimidating, how I would be received by people. But I think specifically, or especially on YouTube, it was so well received, and that was so like healing for me. I was very afraid to like be like, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, you know. Yeah, and I think it was a really scary thing, but it actually turned out to be really positive. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good to hear. I know that's not universal. I mean, what's your attitude to YouTube in terms of the comment section? Because you know, I've had previous guests who've talked about feeling an obligation to taking the comments seriously and trying to reply to people, but that can be quite overwhelming, you know, if you get a lot of comments. I mean, what's sort of been your not policy, but what's sort of what's your approach been to the comments?
Well, I do make a point of replying to all of them, because I just feel if someone took a minute to write down something really nice, like I just want to acknowledge that. Like it when I first got my first few really nice comments, like it's so lovely. Like I was so touched by it, you know. So I think I would always make an effort to at least like and put the little love heart on all of them, and I will try to reply to all of them as well. For sure, I really appreciate it. It still means it's still so novel to me, you know, all of this world. So like, I really appreciate it, you know.
Yeah. When I come back for the second interview, when you've got 100,000 subscribers,
we'll see.
You may have changed your view on that.
Like I hate them.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of negative ones, and the first negative one wasn't even that negative. He told me I shouldn't have been using flamenco music because I was in Basque country, and he's dead right. And do you know what I mean? I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know that. And I was really like, like, you know, because it's a double-edged sword putting yourself out there. Like it'll be well received, and of course it's not going to be all positive, and that wasn't even that big a thing. But I was still definitely like, and you know, one of the actually the hardest things was all of the videos from Spain had done, like by my standards as a new YouTuber, relatively well. Like they'd all gotten over 1,000, couple of thousand. The first one got a good few thousand views, so that was really, really gratifying for me, for anybody. Like that's a really exciting thing. And then I put out my longest video, which was the one from Portugal, which was 30 minutes, because I put each day into one video. So it's a 30-minute video, and that was the video that I had worked so hard on, because it was a Desert Rose one as well. Like it was just really important to me. Like I paid to be there. That's not a sponsored thing or anything like that. But it was really important to me that I conveyed that company well, because they have been so good to me, and you know, I really like them as people and stuff. And that one didn't do so well, you know. And I think because like it was dirt biking, so like I think the vast majority of my viewers are like touring ADV bikers, you know, like I think the demographic is like 55 to 65 males from the UK, you know, so I know that demographic, that is like ADV riders, you know, that kind of thing. So I think they weren't so interested in dirt biking. Also, it's 30 minutes, which is a big ask, you know, it's just a slightly different thing. So it didn't do so well. And when I put so much work into that, it's still like an art form, you know, as someone who makes art, it's the same process, you know, it's still personal. You're still really trying my personal best to make that good. And it's got about 700 views now, you know, and that's after like 2 months, you know. So I found that really hard when that one didn't do so well. But now that I got that out of the way and experienced a video not doing so well, now there's just not that much pressure. I had so much pressure on myself to do well every single time. Now I'm just like, yeah, it is what it is. Regardless, like I'll always do my best. So yeah, it's a roller coaster.
I should prepare you for the Real Riders podcast bump. That inevitably.
I can't wait.
Yeah. No,
That's why I'm
nothing would
here.
surprise me. Nothing would surprise me more. In terms of YouTube, you talked about duration of clips. I mean, have you started to become at all in any way obsessed about YouTube statistics, or are you trying to maintain a healthy relationship with that?
No, I think I have a healthy. I definitely check the views on it, because I think I find that interesting what does well, and it's definitely like same with all social media. Like your brain wants to check because there is a dopamine hit involved. So I'm not someone who doesn't succumb to that. I feel the need to check, and I find it interesting. But generally, it's always they do all right. You know what I mean? Like so. But no, I don't like the statistics like in terms of views and shares and likes and dislikes and all that kind of thing. I think I'd have a pretty healthy relationship on it. Like I'd be a pretty self-assured person in general, I think. So, and especially now, like I mentioned that I got that kind of bad one out of the way, I'm not bracing myself anymore. Like that's happened already, in my eyes, that kind of bad output has happened. So it's okay. No, I don't think I do check, but I'm not overly obsessed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Try and maintain that.
Oh yeah, I will try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of heading towards the end now with a couple of final questions. What are your ambitions for the YouTube channel and actually the video and the film content, the film video content creation?
Yeah. Well, I think like YouTube and the content creation is secondary for me. It's not, I'm not like going out here being like, I want to be a YouTuber and I want this to be my main source of income. What I want to happen is I want to work in the motorcycle world. Like be it in a event production capacity, like do I work in motorcycle related motorsports events? I don't know. All I know is that I am going that direction. I'm doing everything that I can to work in this world. Like I'm going over to the UK on Monday until the end of July to volunteer at a few motorbike festivals. So I don't know exactly what that looks like. I don't know what the future looks like in terms of work and that kind of thing, but I know I'm moving that way and I'm just going to just keep doing what feels right because that's what I've done so far and it's been really successful in my eyes, and just learning. I want to ride bikes. Like that is, at the end of the day, the bottom line. I want to ride bikes as much as I can. I want access to riding dirt bikes as much as I can. So I'm looking at moving over to the UK because it's not too far from home. I can ride dirt bikes. There's loads. It's a huge motorbiking community over there. Loads of different genres of motorbiking. So it's just so much more accessible there. So many more opportunities. So that's what that looks like in terms of work. And then YouTube is a creative outlet. You know what I mean? And I really enjoy making the videos as long as there's not too much pressure on myself. And that's up to me to manage that, So yeah, YouTube, I would love for it to do well, like anybody else, what they would like for what they do to be successful. So I'm just going to keep tipping away at it. I'll try aim for every 2 weeks if I can. But it's secondary, and I'll always keep doing as well as I can and take what opportunities feel right. But it's not, I'm not putting my, all my eggs in that basket and hoping for that to be it. I want it to be both. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And in terms of where you take inspiration from, and we sort of touched on it a little bit before, but more formally, who do you take inspiration from, or what films have inspired you to, do the work that you're doing?
Yeah, like very, very much like I wouldn't be a film buff in terms of like actual movies, but I do watch YouTube for sure. And Itchy Boots, like I mentioned, was the first one that even introduced me to this world. And like I mentioned, I watch Runa. I love her stuff. I find it really enjoyable to watch. Brent Pearson really, I was so impressed by his. I have a friend who's a filmmaker, but he's not a motorcyclist. And I remember sending him Brent Pearson stuff, being like, just look how beautiful these are. I love his, and I'd love to be able to move in that direction to make like really aesthetically pleasing, like not just documenting the process, that too, but also to make it really beautiful. Like I'd love to learn how to do that. Eleanor as well, I think she's fab. I just love how she presents her stuff. She seems really, I don't know, well organized and clear, and Yeah, I love her stuff. I also love watching hard enduro on YouTube, like any hard enduro. Like I think more from like a skills-based perspective. I find that really, really enjoyable to watch. But I think Red Bull Media House capture that really well, like through their drone footage. They obviously have loads of cameramen set up along the course and that kind of thing, and they get like it's insane. They like are putting themselves in danger for sure, getting the shots that they get. But I think that's so cool. I don't know if I would do that, but I really enjoy watching that as well. But yeah, that's a few of them. Oh, Joe Ryan, yeah, him. He's his. I think he's a like filmmaker. You know, first and foremost. Like motorcyclist second. His stuff is beautiful.
Yeah, Joe. I can't remember which episode. I mean, I had the privilege of speaking to Joe, and
okay,
I've been watching his Namibia series that's published at the moment, and I mean, he's now got almost, if not 50,000 subscribers on YouTube.
He should have so much more.
Which is pretty massive compared to, I think when I spoke to him, I should actually make a note of this because it's really interesting to see.
Sure.
Like I think Runa was at like 40,000 when I spoke to her.
She's at least 100,000 now.
Over 100,000 now. Yeah. But Joe also has really his subscriber count's really gone up.
Good.
But he's really, really interesting because he's actually very efficient in because he's, again, a professional filmmaker.
Sure.
And he's got a very specific way about how he makes things. He doesn't shoot a lot of, every time the camera's on, it's on for a specific reason.
Okay.
But he's completely self-taught.
Yeah,
completely self-taught. Oh, yeah.
His stuff is I think, up there with some of the most beautiful stuff I've seen.
Absolutely. And I think he's also a good on-screen character.
He is. Yeah. I like him. Don't know him, but I like him. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I did speak to him, we spoke, I think we recorded for like an hour, and then we talked for like over an hour afterwards.
Amazing.
And I just thought, oh, Joe, I mean, you're just like you are in the films.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I think that's key as well, isn't it? Authenticity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Final, famous last question.
Mm-hmm.
From your own personal experience, does the filmmaking enhance or diminish the pleasure of a motorcycle ride for you?
I think it enhances it because I'm seeing it from my perspective, and then I'm imagining it from another person's perspective, and then I'm thinking about I'm just thinking about it from two perspectives, like me and then removed from myself as well. And I think it adds to it, and it kind of makes me excited. I'm like, oh my God, I get to show this to somebody else. Maybe they'll get a snippet of how I'm feeling, and I think I can work to emulate that. But I think it adds to it for sure. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much for being my guest for this episode, Ali. Please tell listeners where they can find your work online.
Yeah, so I think YouTube is my main channel, Ali Horan IRL, and then Instagram and TikTok are supporting channels for those. So that's short little snippets on there at Ali Horan IRL as well. And I'm going to be in the UK for all of July at ABR at the Desert Rose stall, and I'm going to be at Malay Mile as a marshal, and I'm going to be at Camp VC with Desert Rose as well. So I don't know when this podcast will come out, but if it's before any of those, hopefully we can have a chat.
Well, this episode will come out on the 25th of June. So, yes, before you head to
Brilliant.
the UK, or before July anyway. Mm-hmm. So, definitely that'll work for people. I look forward to following you on your motorcycling and filmmaking journey.
Thank you.
Take care and ride safe.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great.